everybody. This is my friend Matt Hemley. He's lovely. Hello, Matt Hemley.
Hello, Jane. Nice to see you after all this time.
It's been a long time, hasn't it? So Matt Hemley and I know each other from university days. So we both went to a lovely place called Bretton Hall College, which doesn't exist anymore. It's pretty much as a shell of a building in the middle of the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, up near Wakefield. But it was affiliate to the University of Leeds. So I'd love to tell you all to go there, but it doesn't exist anymore, sadly. But so you were the year below me, weren't you, Matt?
Yes,
And we did a lovely course called Theatre Acting Devised Performance, which is a very big mouthful, isn't it? So within that course, we did everything, basically, learned how to make it up, which is how all shows start, let's be frank. So we got a bit of directing, didn't we? A bit of producing, a bit of acting, a bit of all sorts of things, writing, theatre and education, all of it. And I like to say that that's led to me doing what I do, but we're here to talk about what you do. So what is it that you do, Mr. Matt Hemley?
I am a journalist and I am the news editor for the Stage newspaper, which is the industry newspaper for theatre. So it's been going since 1880. It's been owned by the same family that whole time.
No way, I did not know that.
Yeah. The Comerford family set it up back in 1880 and it's been going ever since. And I've been there for 14 of those years. So
wow, 1880. I had no clue.
It's amazing, isn't it? Serving the theatre world, so with reviews, with news about the industry, with features and opinions and all those kind of things. So it kind of really, it's a broad spread of different things, but it's great. And the industry seems to kind of love it and it's always been there. So yeah, long may it continue.
So you're the news editor. So on a day-to-day basis, what are you kind of tasked with doing?
Yeah. So I look after the news output both for print, because there's a print edition which comes out every Thursday, and then I also look after the news content online, and we have 2 deadlines every day for online. So that means there's 2 sets of news going up every day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And basically I either write some of those stories or with my team of reporters, I edit the copy and make sure that it kind of fits the tone and the style for the stage and that it's fit for purpose when it goes up online.
Amazing. So tell me, what's your kind of favorite thing that you've covered or that you write about? What's your kind of favorite section?
Well, I mean, this year's been kind of surreal because it's now very hard to think about anything other than the pandemic and coronavirus. And I can't in all honesty remember what we used to write about on a normal week, because so far, the industry's been so badly affected by what's happened with theatres being closed for a year now, and all the stories have been about survival really, and how the industry is going to come back. And initially when everything closed back in March, it was very much a case of like, these are the companies that are no longer with us and those kind of stories, and the freelancers that have left the industry because it was completely impossible for them to work in it. And then gradually, as things have moved on and the recovery came through the government funding, we've started to write more positive stories about return and shows coming back. And in fact, in the last couple of weeks, it's been great because there's so many West End shows announcing their return. So yeah. I think I'd probably say that I've enjoyed that after a year of kind of doom and gloom.
Yeah, a bit of hope, giving us all a bit of hope that it's coming back. It does look that way, doesn't it? And I was watching Saturday Night Takeaway last week thinking, wait a minute, if they could do that big dance routine in that studio with all those people, why could we not be back in the theatre with small casts? Surely that's the same process. There's got to be a way of making it safe. It's just, I think it's more complicated than that, I know, but yeah. Cool. So I've gone from Bretton Hall to in kind of performance education, which I guess sort of makes sense on the road of what we did at Bretton. However, you're still in the business, but how did you get from, did you intend to be a performer when you left Bretton? What was the road to doing what you do?
I did try to be a performer for about 6 months, and I think I realized very early on, or quite early on at Bretton, that it probably wasn't something that I would want to do on graduating, because I realized that there's a lot of competition, and if you really want it, you've got to kind of give everything to it. And I was starting to think, am I going to want that insecurity, or am I going to want something that's a bit more stable, you know? So sorry, kids. So
It's true.
so I had already thought about what I might do, and I have loved writing ever since I was a kid. So when I was growing up, I either was in a youth drama group, or I was setting up school newspapers or newspapers for my swimming club. So the two have always gone hand in hand. And when I left Bretton Hall, I did Crag Rats, which is a theatre and education company. And I did that for about 6 months and loved it. But then I realised pretty early on that I was going to do something else. And so I spoke to my parents and I was like, well, maybe I could go to retrain in journalism. And I went and did what's called an NCTJ, which was a national certificate for the training of journalists. And that's basically what I did. It was a fast track route, so it was about a year. And I got a job straight off the back of that on my local newspaper in Watford, on the Watford Observer. And it was all very much covering everything, but I made sure I did lots of theatre reviews and cinema film reviews just so I could keep my hand in that world. Always, the whole time, having my eye on the stage because I wanted to combine my passions. And eventually, after like 6-7 years of doing other things, I kind of wrote to the editor of the stage, if anything comes up, would you consider me? And he said, there's nothing at the moment. Then about a year later, he said, someone's leaving. Do you want to come in for an interview? And 14 years later, I'm still there. And it is the best of both worlds because, you know, as you say, I'm still in the industry, but I'm not, you know, I'm not a performer myself, but I'm getting to write about the thing that I love, which is drama and arts and theatre. And so, yeah, I feel like it's a real privilege.
Oh, amazing. I think it's really important actually for people to be honest and about saying that performing wasn't for them. I think there's so much pressure due to, you know, there's so many TV programs, aren't they, where you go on and you do this audition and then you're catapulted into this sense of ridiculous fame, whereas the reality of it is absolutely not that. And I'm exactly the same, Matt. I tried for 4 years and it never made me happy. I was never very good at the auditions. I always got too scared and mucked up and my brain went to pot and I'd forget the words or forget what to do with my hands. Yeah. Always the auditions that I didn't want, I got. And, you know, I had a lovely time for a few years. And then, yeah, it was the teaching. I just went, this is what it's all about. I love this. Yeah. This is gorgeous. And, yeah. You know, so I think there's something to be said for being honest about that. I think a lot of people kind of apologize for saying, well, I tried to be an actor, but I was rubbish at it and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, no, I chose not to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine was very much a conscious decision. I knew I wanted some kind of the more stable route, the more, you know, a monthly income. So from my journalism, obviously I get a salary, so it's paid every month. Whereas if I was going to do the acting route, it was probably going to be a bit more that alongside other things, maybe, you know, bar work or whatever that would be. And I just didn't feel that was going to suit what I wanted because I'm not very good with uncertainty. So I needed to know what I was going to be doing. And and I definitely made the right choice because, as I said, I've got to do. I still am involved in the industry. I'm still very much part of it, but I feel like I've got the best of both worlds, definitely.
Absolutely. So do you, in your job, do you get to still go to like opening nights and closing parties and things? Which are the best bits?
Definitely the best bits. I'm such a big musical theatre fan, and I think there's a joke in the office because I'm like the song and dance guy. I love to break out into songs, and there's a few other people that are kind of more into the straight theatre, the plays. But for me, it was always about musical theatre. That was the first thing I saw was Joseph at the London Palladium with Jason Donovan, and it just stuck. And I was like, this is the world that I want to be part of. So without a doubt, I'm at, opening nights when they're open, when theatres can be open. When you ask me what my favourite part of the job is, I think it's probably, apart from writing, is going to those opening nights and being around the creative teams and the actors and going to the parties afterwards and getting to talk to them and taking my dictaphone so I can ask them questions that might lead to stories too. But, that's a really fun side of the job, because theatre parties, after night parties are
the best.
Are really fun. Yeah.
The best.
Yeah.
I'm really thrilled. And I genuinely, I said to you before we started recording, I didn't know how you got to that. I was like, well, you must have had to retrain. That's really interesting that it's only a year.
Yeah.
But obviously then it was that subsequent few years of learning on the job that's actually the training, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. So the course is, like I said, it's fast track, and within that you do your shorthand and learn the interview skills and all those kind of things. But it actually carries on the first job you do. You carry on for like another 18 months to get your kind of full qualification. So really, it's probably more like 2.5 years. But you're working at that point, like you say. So
Yeah.
and yeah, I've done quite a few things: local papers, Women's Weekly magazine. You know, writing about TV and radio for another newspaper. So I've done quite a lot now, but definitely feel like this is where I should be and what I should be doing, which is why I've been there so long. I just can't imagine giving up this job to anybody else. It's too good.
Now, well, one day you will be editor.
One day, yeah, even though I've told people that I already am, but yeah.
I love it. No, I think it's really inspirational, Matt, because I think there are a lot of people who do just like being around the theatre or the film industry or whatever. And I think, like I say, you only hear about the ones who are plucked out of obscurity or go to an audition and made a big star. You don't hear about the stories of people who just want to work.
Yeah.
And just you know, the actors where you go, oh, you know, him, he's in everything. That one, you never know their name.
Yeah.
That's the kind of actor I always wanted to be.
Yeah.
And in fact, I always say, I think I'll wake up one day in my 60s and go, I think I'll be an actress again.
You've still got time, Jane. These things,
Absolutely.
they never go away. You know, you've always got those skills.
Absolutely.
That's the thing about like learning from Breton. Everything that you've learned from those 3 years, none of that's been wasted. Like in my line of work, it's all about communication and talking to people, and you know that's played a huge part of what I do now. So I don't regret for a minute spending 3 years walking around the room clapping and changing direction every time they did or whatever it was.
Pretend to be a leaf.
Yeah, exactly. I don't at all. And also, like, it's just so, there's so much to be had from that time, like being around other people who think like you and sharing like all those experiences. And you know, some of my best friends are still part of that Bretton Hall, of those Bretton Hall days. So I don't regret it at all. And actually, going back to what you were saying about, well, you know, experiences and things. I did work experience when I was in secondary school at the Garrick Theatre in the West End, because I wanted to know what it was like being around the theatre. You said some people just want to be around theatre. So I went in, and I would recommend it if you can get work experience in the theatre. It was the best week of my life, because I sat on the stage door. I was working backstage doing the smoke effects at some point. I was front of house doing ticket ripping. I did everything, and I really got to experience the whole kind of mechanics of working in the theatre. And I loved it so much that I asked if I could go back over that summer. So the following summer, I went back and did another 2 weeks. If you can get a foot in the door and just try and experience being in the theatre, I can't recommend it enough, because it was such a buzz. And I love being in theatre spaces.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I couldn't agree more. I did exactly the same. I did a work experience in my local theatre, and they were doing a Shakespeare festival they do in Stafford every year in the summer. And I was making car park passes. I did all sorts of random things. And yeah, I wasn't on stage, and I wasn't, you know, but I was there, and I just loved it. And I learned loads. Yeah. I learned what all the roles were. I learned that it wasn't just the actors and the director. There's a marketing guy. There's the techie guys. You know, it was fascinating.
Yeah.
I often say that if I did it all again, I would learn how to make props, because I am never happier in show term at Stagecoach when they go, Jane, there's this list of props, but this really weird one. Like, I don't think you'd be able to buy this. Yes, bring it on. Get the tape out. I love it.
And that's the thing, there are so many options in theatre. Like, there's so many jobs to do. So like journalism, an example, just one example, but obviously what you've just touched on, all the kind of people working backstage, front of house. And then in my line of work too, all the people that work in theatre publicity roles. So like, you know, I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis people who are representing shows to the press, and they're the people that I have to go to for comments and things like that. But it's all connected, and you know, there's so many opportunities actually within theatre if you think outside of just performing. It's
absolutely, it's a huge like network family of people, isn't it? And that's what I really hope to inspire in others who just love it. But they know, I think, you know, don't you, heart of hearts, I don't think I'm cut out to do this performance thing. I know I can do it. I know I'm all right, but I can't, you know, the auditions are tough. And like you say, you might have to get a job, and it's balancing that job in the week to pay your rent and letting them down because you've got an audition that you can't miss. And it's a real like perseverance game that I just don't have that skill in my life. And the minute that I accepted that, and actually the day that I realized I loved my job the most was when I realized that every single job, I don't think there's very few jobs that isn't public facing, that you don't have to speak to another human being. And actually, if you don't have those kind of skills naturally, it's learning it. It's learning to be confident in speaking to someone else or presenting yourself or in an interview. That is like an audition, isn't it?
Exactly.
And not everybody has those skills naturally.
No, and it all comes into play. So like I say, everything you've learned, you take with you, you just use them in different ways.
Absolutely. I've got a lot of ex-students who are lawyers, who are, you know, who work in kind of, I don't know what we'd call that sector. I call it normal jobs. So it's interesting to speak to somebody who has a normal job, but within the realm of the non-normal world.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think you'll be inspiring. You've made it sound easy and wonderful and fun. That's what we want, right?
It's definitely one of the best jobs in the world, I would say, hand on heart. If you love writing, then write about theatre. It's amazing.
Good. Thank you, lovely. Thank you for your time.
Bye.